Hello, everybody, and welcome to Desert Island Games with the Retro Bear. This is the Retro Bear speaking to you from the comfort of my shack somewhere on a desert island, where today I've marooned a fellow gamer somewhere completely remote, armed only with a machine that can play any game from history, be it tape, cartridge, mobile, CD-ROMs, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, you name it, and asked them to pick 6 of their favourite games they'd love to be stuck on a desert island with. Also, a game which they've got some time to put into, which they may not have had done originally, and a game that they absolutely hate because no desert island should be a paradise. And so I've very happily agreed to speak today with a good friend of mine, and this is Alex, who's also known as Griffo from Griffo's Retro Gaming. I should have asked you, Alex, before we started, what do we call you, Alex or Griffo?
Whatever you want.
Whatever I want. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, I won't call you Steve, because that'll just confuse the whole thing altogether, won't it?
I've been called worse, mate.
You can think. Well, it's great you've agreed to do this, Alex. And I said we've had a few experiments on the TMB podcast with the chaps on that, and I thought this is a great idea to try and take it forward. So as you're on here, if anybody who's obviously isn't aware of, you sort of what you do in terms of your gaming thing, if you just give people a brief introduction to who and what you are about.
Yeah, okay, so I'll stay away from what games I'm into and all that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But my name's Alex, and I've got a YouTube channel called Griffo's Retro Gaming, which I've been doing for about 2 years now. And it's best way to describe it is like an entertainment sort of channel involving games. So I do a mix of many different types of videos. I do pickups, helpful videos, which is what I first started out doing, cover events. I've even tried my hand at comedy. So yeah,
we've all tried to
try.
Yeah, we've all tried to throw sort of different elements into it to keep people sort of interested. I know gaming is sort of the core content of a lot of people's channels, and if you can sort of add the extra bits to it, and we're all guilty of sort of throwing mud at the wall and finding not all of it sticks, and then you end up sort of stuck with the things that people enjoy watching. So you say you've been going on this 2 years now, haven't you? Is that right?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I expect the same length of time as me. I mean, it's time passes so quickly, doesn't it? I don't think it's been 5 minutes since I started doing this properly, and then all of a sudden you end up 2 years later, and you've got a great raft of games to play through and things like that.
Gone ridiculously quick.
It has. Yeah, it has. So, premise of this, as we said before, is Alex has very kindly picked 8 games which we're going to sort of discuss through the course of this particular podcast. So, I say podcast, I think it's interview, or I don't know, chat, discussion, I suppose, really is the best way to describe it. And we'll just go through them in sort of order, and in between we'll have a bit of a chat about other stuff that's going on. So, Alex, what first got you into gaming?
Oh, well, that would have been my brother and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My brother's about 9 years older than me. And he had, I think his first console was a Dragon. And that got passed down to me, but I don't have too many memories of that.
Was that a Dragon 32?
Yeah, I think it was the 32.
That's all right, because I've recently come into possession of one of those.
Have you really?
Yep, and it was not working when my other half had a go at it. Bought it as a non-working item, and it's now working.
Oh, wow.
And it come with a box. A bit of a tatty box, couple of games with it, but no joysticks. And I wasn't aware that the joysticks were quite sort of strange as they were. They're sort of really weird.
Well, weren't they back then?
Yeah, just a weird controller. But yeah, so yeah, I actually the first person I've spoken to who actually sort of knows what I'm talking about when I talk about dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of remember it, but from there, when my brother got rid of the Dragon and I got past that, he got the Spectrum, I believe.
Mm.
And that's what I ended up getting once he got the Master System.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot more memories on the Spectrum. Dave Edsel will be pleased to know that I used to love Dizzy.
Oh, Dizzy Dave, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I used to like Trapdoor as well because I used to play that. I'm 36 this month, so you can see how old I was. Like, so 5, 6 when I first had that. 10 of me, nah, it's really.
Well, so I mean, what would you say sort of attracted you to gaming when you first sort of realised it was there?
I suppose it was escapism. And I just used to get so engrossed in it. It just, I can't really explain it. It was like a calling, as corny as that sounds. But yeah, once I was playing, I was there for ages, and I don't know if you remember, a favourite game of mine was called Quasitron or Quasitron on the Spectrum, and it was robots on an isometric sort of grid, and used to fire at each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my favourite games.
Right. So you grew up with the Spectrum then. So from the Spectrum, you said the Master System after that, was it?
Yeah, and my brother started working not long after that, so we started having 2 consoles in the house. But my main love was the Game Boy.
Yeah.
That was mine. So I spent so much time on the Game Boy.
Is that the original grey one, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah. I got that in Christmas 1992, and I got Tetris, Hyperload Runner, and Dr. Mario.
That's good selection of games there then.
Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, yeah. I was never lucky to have a Game Boy. My sister had a Game Boy, which was completely wasted on her, I think. Because she
With
never.
Tetris, I bet.
Yeah, Tetris. I think Donkey Kong as well.
Mm.
And I have no idea what happened to it. It's completely wasted on her because she was not a gamer at all in the slightest. Never has been particularly interested in them anyway. Right, so a little bit of history there, which we'll sort of try and come back to and work our way into as we go through the broadcast. So we're going to talk now about some of your favourite games. These are games that I asked you in advance to sort of think about and have a pick of games that if you were stuck on a desert island somewhere and you had access to them, we've asked you to pick 6 of these altogether. So what's your first pick?
Well, there was no hesitation with this, and it's Baldur's Gate 2 on the PC.
Baldur's Gate 2. That's RPG, isn't it, I think?
It is, yeah.
You can tell I've absolutely very little idea what this is about, but I know from sort of some videos that you've done in terms certainly of the Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. Yeah. This is sort of your area, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but it wasn't to begin with.
Oh, right, okay. So how did you end up sort of falling down the RPG path?
So my brother and dad were both like RPG lovers, but I was always, when I got the PC, I was a lover of Champ Manager.
Yes, well, yeah. Regular viewers to my sort of channel will know that's one of my favourite series of all time.
It's absolutely amazing, and the amount of hours I've dedicated to every single one of them. But my dad hated football. I love football. I've sort of fall out of love with it recently. But I was either on Champ Manager or ISS or FIFA back in the day. And he said, why don't you play a real game? And he suggested Baldur's Gate. Number 2. I'll just explain, because number 2 is a continuation of the first one. It's not like a separate game. So you start off at a higher level. So to begin with, it's a bit easier than the first game, where you just level 1 and a stray arrow from a goblin can kill you.
Right.
So I just started on number 2 and I just fell in love with it straight away. I thought, this is fantastic, and why have I not been playing RPG games?
It's when you sort of click with something, don't you? You find whether it's a game series or whether a style of game, or even a console, something like that. Just something sort of sticks and clicks with you and think, yeah, this is what I should be doing. So, did you ever play the first one?
I played it after number 2.
Right, so you went back to the first game after playing the second game.
Yeah, number 2 is my favourite, but number 1 is very good as well. And what makes it so good is the fact that it's got a really good story, but each of the characters have their own personality and they interact with each character in your party. You can have a party of up to 6 people in there. And they all have alignments as well. So you have obviously good, evil, but there's like subsections as well. So lawful good and chaotic good and all that. But if you have a good character and an evil character in the same party, they'll start to clash and start fighting. And it's just things like that. And it's not like I hate you and, start fighting. They have a tension and it just grows and grows over time. And then it just explodes into a fight.
Group infighting, who'd have thought it?
But likewise, you can also have love stories with female characters as well. Friendships.
And French, yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's more when I think of RPG, I think of sort of like something like Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
and that's sort of the game. Also, even going back to games I played when I was younger, had me like Bard's Tale and Dungeon Master and Castle Master and things like that, and they just didn't sort of interest me in the slightest. And then, but this here is sort of taking it to sort of a different level by developing and giving more depth to the characters, and as you said, the infighting, and in fact you can just go beyond somebody walking around a world or a maze. Was this before or after Warcraft?
Might have been just after. Was Warcraft 97?
Yeah, I'm not trying to catch you out. I just thought about it when I'm thinking about it, and I know that I used to know somebody who played Warcraft quite a bit, and they'd have sort of clans and they'd sort of get together online and sort of go around in groups and things like that. So it sort of strikes me as being a little bit similar. Was it sort of set in like a medieval, or was it a fancy world, Baldur's Gate?
It's a medieval-esque Dungeons and Dragons setting, really, fantasy world, but the world is a lot like the Elder Scrolls one, so you've got different inns within the Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm.
There's Icewind Dale, Neverwinter Nights, you might know, things like that. And they all take part on different parts of the map, like Elder Scrolls does, where you've got Skyrim, you've got Morrowind, which are all provinces within Cyrodiil.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say was the best part of the game that sort of makes it such a firm favourite for you?
Oh God.
If you had to, as I said, well, if you're on the spot, 'cause you are now, I'll just put you on it. But if you could just pick sort of one, whether it's sort of one characteristic, whether it's one sort of function, or one sort of special moment in the game that sort of makes you think, or puts it there, I absolutely love that bit, or that way you can do something, etc.
It has to be the interaction and the characteristics of the characters, and I'll tell you why as well, because there's Icewind Dale, which uses the same engine, the fighting, weapons are sort of the same, but you create your own party, so obviously it doesn't have a deep story for each one and a personality, and it's heavily focused on combat, so you've got the same combat as Baldur's Gate. You've got a decent story, it's not too bad at all, but without the characters having personalities, it seems a little bit empty, a bit hollow, where Baldur's Gate is just a perfect blend of everything, in my opinion.
Do you think when it's like, say, Championship Manager, you find that because you've got real players in there, you sort of develop that bond the same way you would do with the characteristics of the characters in Baldur's Gate 2?
Well, so, like, if you've got fake players, it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. But you sort of develop a bond with those players. So you sort of develop because of what they do, and they're reliable, or that's you're not reliable, you're dropped or sold or whatever. But with the characteristics of the characters in Baldur's Gate, that's the sort of same sort of thing where you can sort of say, well, you can bond with a character or feel a certain affinity with what they're doing and as part of that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
One
understand
of my
then.
favourite characters is one called Minsk. Sorry, I'm not. I'm not just giving you a one-word answer.
No, it's all right. Well, you could have done it. We've, yeah, that would answer the
Yeah,
question. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's answered my question. That's fine. No, go on. Sorry, your character. Yeah.
yeah. One of my favourite characters from the whole series is called Minsk, and he's fantastic. He's voiced by a guy called Jim Cummins, who does a lot of cartoon voices as well. It's real distinctive.
Yeah.
So having that as well, yeah, just everything about the game's just wonderful. It's my favourite game of all time, like I say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It sounds like a good choice. And how many games were there in the series? Was it more than the two?
No, there was the two, but there was expansion packs. There was one for each game, and then they've released a standalone one which is in between Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've not played that as yet, but
yeah,
I've played all the others.
Now, you did mention when we talked about this previously that was there a version on a console as well, which wasn't anything to do with this, all completely different game.
Yeah, so it uses the name, but it's a hack and slash.
Right.
But it's a very good hack and slash,
Mm-hmm.
to be fair. But yeah, it just uses the Baldur's Gate name. There's none of the characters.
Right, okay. So it's sort of an extension of the franchise in a sort of parallel universe type of way, as if it was we're going to an alternative 1985. Something like that, yeah. Right, okay, so that's a good choice. Certainly a game I've got no experience with, but hopefully the people who are listening to this will obviously understand your passion for it. Now, before we got into Baldur's Gate 2, we were talking about one of your favourite consoles of all time, which I think will then lead us very nicely to your second choice for a game to be stuck in an island with. And to be honest with you, as I said before, I've done this with 5 other guys and myself, and none of us picked this game, which I'm really, really surprised about, because I was thinking about it just before we started doing this. I thought, this sort of game, this sort of genre, we pretty much ignored, and I love this sort of style of game. So your number 2 choice would be
Tetris.
There you go. Simple, isn't it? I mean, people sit there at home now slapping their hands off their foreheads going, of course, yeah, Tetris. I forgot about Tetris. I love puzzle games, so I can't understand why I didn't stick it on there, but I didn't think of it at the time.
I have a big passion for puzzle games.
Yeah.
Really have.
Yeah, I was thinking of the ones either Tetris. Clax was the other one as well, which I think I don't think gets a lot of recognition at all. And I was only playing that weekend before last on the 64. It's a fair conversion from the 64, but I played it on probably emulation before and absolutely loved that sort of game. And then again, it was like plotting and Puzznik, which are out on the 16 bits when I was younger, and of course. On the Mega Drive, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which is absolutely fantastic as well. So we've got this whole genre of puzzle games here, Alex. So Tetris is your choice, and why is that such a favourite game for yourself?
So Tetris brought the family together, as corny as that sounds.
Yeah, is that a good thing or not? I suppose it would. Yeah, depends how you get on with your family, I suppose, really. But yeah. Sorry, yeah.
But yeah, we used to have a Tetris challenge and see who could get the most lands in one night. And that'd be myself, my dad, and my mum. And yeah, it was just fun. And over time, I just absolutely love the Tetris brand, if you like, as well. I think the best version is the Game Boy one, but the NES one's very good as well. And the DS one's quite good.
Have you played many more sort of modern variations? I know there was that Tetris 99, which came out not so long ago.
Yeah, I haven't played that. No, I've played the Xbox one, which I assume is the same as the PlayStation 2.
That'll be Tetris Worlds, I'm thinking of. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
I'm looking for Tetris on I think it's Evolution on the 360. Gernaldinho's just picked that up.
He picks a lot of stuff up in the 360. I think it's all he picks up, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's what he collects, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got tremendous collection. But yeah, I mean, that's a game which is so simple, but has stood the test of time. And like I said, it's gone so many different variants, and there's been 3D versions, and sort of even variations on Tetris as well.
Tetris 2 was different, wasn't it?
I don't ever played that one.
Have you not?
No.
It's all right. It's not as good as the first, but it's all right.
Yeah, but yeah, just taking that sort of very, very simple premise and developing it further, and I don't know. I think you're right in what you're saying. Going back and sort of playing the Game Boy version. I mean, if you've got a Game Boy, you only haven't got Tetris, then you need your hands chopped off so you couldn't play on it. It's one of those standard games. I mean, I think you could sort of go back and say, the phrase that was used sort of quite commonly now is an app killer. I mean, yeah. when that game was packed in with the Game Boy, that was the reason the Game Boy was so successful, because you got a cracking free game, which wasn't a Mario game or a mascot-based game. It was something which was simple, addictive, and everybody had played it, and they even made a bloody song out of it as well at one point, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I think if you look deeper into that, I think Andrew Lloyd Webber was behind that originally. Yeah, I remember reading something at the time. It was definitely something to do with him. Dr. Spin, I think it was called. It's a terrible record. But, that was, again, the sort of part of the gaming craze at that time, that the early 90s was, Super Mario Land crossed into the charts as well at some point as well. Yeah. So we're moving away from that. But, again, I mean, what would sort of stand out as sort of a best moment or a best part of Tetris? I suppose really beating your best line score is the obvious one, but do you look forward to a particular point in the game where it gets quicker or harder, or?
Well, that's the game as such, isn't it? But I like making a mess and then trying to clear it up.
Oh yeah, the clever way. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not clever enough to do that. I just tend to sort of just once it starts getting too quick for me, I sort of stop panicking and then crying and then turn it off. Yeah, it's an amazing game against such a simple premise, and I'm surprised we didn't think of it beforehand. But when you mentioned it, I thought, what a great choice of game that is.
And when you said it was accessible for everyone, I think it brought an awful lot of women and girls into gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have read that.
And of course, I get something along the line with that. Somebody at some point somewhere has played, whether it's the original version of Tetris or one of the spin-offs or the sequels that have gone through down the years. Even if someone's played like a knockoff version of Tetris, because that, an LCD version game, which we were sort of quite prominent, and Brickmaster and things like that. Or I'm sure there's one called Brickmaster. I'm pretty sure there was. I'm pretty sure I played on it as well. But that sort of thing. Somebody somewhere, even if they don't play games on a regular basis, would have seen or played a version of Tetris in one form or another. Yeah,
and I think the most popular one will have been mobile.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the ideal thing for that, that sort of genre, isn't it? That sort of perhaps be sat on a bus or a train, or well, when you're allowed to sit on buses and trains again. But that sort of thing. It's such a simple thing to do. I mean, one game I enjoy playing on my phone is Bubble Shooter. That's been around for years.
Is that like BR Bedlam?
It's
and what's the other one? Buster Move.
Yeah, it's like I was trying to think, not Puzzle Bubble, but it's Buster Move. Yeah, that's the sort of thing there. But it's just simple. It's just an arrow with different coloured balloons, and I can sit there for hours playing that.
It's so addictive, aren't they?
Yeah, I've stood in a chip shop playing that game. Just waiting in the queue at the chip shop. Just stood there for 15 minutes. Really long queue on a Friday night, but sitting there, just standing there playing Bubble Shooter on my phone, and that's the sort of thing. Simple games like that are just so addictive, and drag people in. And Tetris, shifted a heck of a lot of Game Boys because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely the right choice. Like the Mega Drive with Sonic, absolutely right choice.
Mm-hmm. Rather than Altered Beast. Yeah. I don't. People brag on Altered Beast a little bit. I mean, it's not great, but it's not as bad as people make out to it.
Yeah, I used to like it. Not too bad.
Yeah. So after the Game Boy, then where did your sort of gaming journey continue on to?
So I had the Super Nintendo. My brother had the Mega Drive.
So yeah, both the 16-bit console giants.
Yeah.
Wow.
We never had a NES. He had the Master System, and I used to play on that. But then from there, it was the NES for me.
Did you find that anybody you ever, and this has been brought up many times recently, that, I mean, I'm exactly the same. Did you ever know anybody with an NES when you were younger?
Yes.
You did?
It wasn't as rare as people make out. One of my friends had it, and I really remember playing Turtles and going to his birthday party, and he had Mario 3, and we was playing that. My cousin also had a NES as well.
Because I don't know, never knew anybody with one, but I'm not saying they weren't popular or weren't around at the time, because if you went to somewhere like Toys R Us, they'd always got them in there. But the only people I knew who had consoles from that sort of era would have been a Master System, and I knew 4 or 5 people. I know at least 2 of those people then went on to a Mega Drive after that.
Yeah.
So it's very much sort of a pointing question. So you're the first person I know who's answered yes to that question.
Yeah.
Do you know somebody with an NES?
He didn't have a ton of games, but yeah, I remember playing Turtles and Mario 3.
So the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive in the same household together?
Yeah, and I don't want to sound posh because we never had money, but my dad had an Amiga as well.
Oh my goodness me! Now, yeah, well, so we had an Amiga, and yeah, that wasn't cheap back then. So
No.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, so much choice there. I mean, how did you know what to sort of play on, or buy software for? I don't say games, but with the Amiga it'd be software. With the console, it's going to be cartridge games. But I mean, how would you know? Was there a favourite one amongst the 3, or?
Well, forget about software for the Amiga because my dad used to have backups of every game.
Yeah. We should be using the inverted commas here, shouldn't we? The air commas.
Yes, I am.
Backup.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not on film, is it? Yeah, I'm using the commas.
Well, if you're not, I'm doing it for you, so you're all right.
But yeah, I am a Nintendo boy at heart. I'm not a massive fan of Sega, which will upset a lot of people. That's not to say that there wasn't any good games on Sega, because I did used to like a lot of games, but Nintendo was where my heart was. I just preferred Mario over Sonic. Not that Sonic's bad, I do like Sonic, but I preferred Mario. And,
is there a
again,
reason?
with columns, I liked columns, but Tetris was always my favourite.
Is there a reason you prefer Mario over Sonic? Just one particular reason? Without getting into an in-depth discussion of why the other one's better than the other one.
It's just, I don't know, more pleasing on the eye, maybe. A lot more colourful and friendlier characters, and Sonic was a bit more edgy, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, that was the idea, wasn't it? It was a hedgehog for a start, and we know how notoriously off-the-rails hedgehogs are. I mean, they're constantly, running around at night, tearing up the neighbourhood at night, and zipping around. And but also interesting, you said they're columns. Now, I didn't mention columns, talk about Tetris, but I love columns as well, and I think that is a game which probably gets again tarred with a brush it doesn't deserve because it's so readily available, and Sega try and ram it on every single compilation they possibly can.
I'm glad they do.
Yeah, I've got no problem with it. In fact, I think when Rob was doing Gennardini was doing his live 24-hour stream, he was playing stuff off the Mega Drive collection. I must have typed in columns about 6 times, but he kept ignoring me. I don't know. Right, so more Nintendo rather than Sega when around that time there.
Yeah, there was Zelda as well. I fell in love with Zelda Link to the Past.
I don't know. It's just a game I can't. Series I just can't get into. I'm afraid I've tried to do it, but it's just not for me. I'm not saying they're bad games. I'm not saying I'm hate the franchise or anything like that. But it's just games I just can't get on with. Doesn't mean I haven't got any of them because I have. I've probably got more Zelda games than somebody who doesn't like Zelda games should care to admit. But I do have, even having Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U.
Have you got a Wii U?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, there will be a collection video dropping at some point. I've got about 20 odd games for it, but I bought one last year.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, Hyrule Warriors was a game. I don't know why I bought it. I think it combines Zelda and fighting games, which are two of my least favourite genres.
Yeah.
So was your brother then more into the Sega side of things than you were?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm.
He liked Dungeons and Dragons, which there was one on the Mega Drive. There was it Eye of the Beholder on the I don't know if that was Mega Drive or the SNES.
I know of the game, and there is a game. But beyond the title, I can't really help you on that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but yeah. So he was into all that. I think Might and Magic was another one of his favourites.
Yeah.
That was on the. Oh, it was on both, wasn't it, actually? But yeah, I think it was an EA game because it had the yellow tabs. I'm sure it had.
Oh yes, on the cartridge. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was Mystic Quest on the SNES, which we all enjoyed playing. We never had Final Fantasy. Oh, my mind's gone blank here, Bear. So
That's all right. That's no problem.
Oh, Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Shadowrun. We had that as well. That was on the SNES, but we all played that. What a great game that is.
I've never heard of that one.
It's very expensive, so if you want to play it emulated, it's very good.
Yeah, I'm never likely to own it either at that point as well. So
I saw it boxed for over £100, so cartridge will probably be about 60, 70, I reckon.
Yeah, so it's a hefty. I mean, some of those games are tremendous value they have now, and whether that's to do with where we are or whether that's the case of where it's going to go. But yeah, so definitely a Nintendo fan.
Me personally, yeah.
Yeah, and your brother more so. Did that cause any arguments at all in your household, or did you all manage to all get on incredibly well without taking the mick out of each other for liking one brand more than the other? Because that's what used to happen when we were there. You know, oh, you like Sega, oh, you like Nintendo, and you'd always find a reason to have an argument about it.
It sort of gives us more of an opportunity to explore different games, really. Like on the Mega Drive, we had NHLPA 93, an ice hockey game, and we used to love playing that.
Cracking game, absolutely brilliant that.
And on the SNES, we used to enjoy playing Mario Kart. So there was never any fights. It was more of an opportunity.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you know, let's say friendships get ruined over certain things, but you can always guarantee if somebody got one system and somebody got the other one, they could always have a reason for having an argument and poking fun at somebody else for enjoying it. I mean, when I first had an Amiga, I was the only kid at school who had an Amiga because everybody else had STs. And then within 12 months, everybody had Amigas and nobody had an ST apart from one guy. And he was always the one who was more vocal about it 12 months before about how good the ST was and how crap the Amiga was. Yep, he's not laughing now, that's for sure. Right, so yeah, we'll come back to your gaming journey in a little bit. I want to move on to your third favourite game choice now. So we've had Baldur's Gate 2 on the PC. We've had Tetris on the Game Boy. We've now got a game I know somebody at home will be sitting there very excited in a few moments' time because it's a favourite series of his. So what's the third choice then, Alex?
It's Gears of War 3.
It's Gears of War 3. Hello, Gernaldino, if you're listening. Yeah, so I'm just trying to go through my list and just trying to see if, because I know Rob did pick a game.
I think he picked number 3 as well.
I think he did. Yes, you're absolutely right. He did. Yes, I did write those down. Yeah. Yeah, so obviously there's room on the island for more than one version of this game because obviously you're sitting on a different part of it to his. What is a fascination and the thrill with Gears of War 3?
Much the same as Rob. The Horde mode is amazing. Me and the wife used to play it.
Oh, right. So does she play many games, your wife, or?
Not really. She likes Grand Theft Auto. and Tomb Raider,
Mm-hmm.
Uncharted, because it's like Tomb Raider, and then she liked playing Gears of War with me.
So basically anything that involves either mindless violence or running around wearing very little, doing archaeological exploration.
Oh, you come to mention it,
yeah. Have you not noticed the pattern there?
But I'm a really big Gears of War fan. I've got my 360 is the Gears of War one, and I like all the games. I haven't got an Xbox One, so I haven't played the latest one.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I picked number 3 is it's got a better horde mode than 2, because you can buy certain things to help you. So you can buy barriers to keep the locust away, or turrets, automatic turrets. And that just added an extra dimension to it that was, I thought, a really good addition without spoiling it too much. Because when the Horde mode first started on Gears of War 2, I thought it was amazing anyway. But with the third one, they just improved it enough and made it fresh. Rob will agree with me on that. But the story on the game wasn't as good as number 2, I don't think. So if you could cross the hard mode off 3 with 2, it'd be the perfect game, but it's still really good.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a franchise which we mentioned Rob before, but Sony people absolutely love it, and I hands on heart, I've never actually played one yet. But I do own 3 of them. In fact, I own 3, and what I've been told is the least enjoyable game, Judgment, as well.
Judgment, that's with a different character, and it's a bit different, but I didn't think it was terrible, but it's not as good as the mainline ones.
Yeah, I mean, I will certainly get around to playing them at some point, because I do want to do them. I've been very lucky to actually pick up all the limited editions as well, second hand, which is, and I think apart from a plastic slipcase, the first one, they've all got the bits in there. So all the collectible bits that came with them. So I was quite fortunate to get those second hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the series, and it is a game I probably would sit down and enjoy playing. What's the best moment, or the sort of the best part of Gears 3 then? So apart from the horde mode, but is there a specific moment in that game which you sort of think then go, God, it doesn't get any better than this?
The cutscenes are quite good. There's bigger, badder monsters and things like that. I think it's 3 anyway. It's all merged into one, but there's like this big rock snake, and you go into it. So you've got to kill it from the inside, and that's quite interesting. Because you've got to kill it because it's causing tremors. I'm sure that's number 3.
Well, I'm sure somebody will let us know if it isn't.
Rob's going to film
it. Yep. So I mean, another popular game choice there, and again, it's a series which I say a lot of people have an affinity with, and so I mean, again, 3 sort of different styles of game there. So you got first-person shooter, you got a puzzle game, and you got a sort of an RPG sort of open-world exploration game.
Yeah. 3 of my favourite genres, really.
Well, so looking at the rest of the games we're going to be talking about, I can probably see the pattern developing there. But that's yeah. But this is the thing. I said so right at the very start. People sort of attach onto certain genres and certain styles, and generally end up sort of playing those games, and they're sort of being their favourite games ever, because you stick to that sort of thing. You stick to what you love best. But we've got some interesting choices to talk through now. Number 4 off your list, and I think we briefly touched on this sort of series earlier on, just mentioning it going through, or certainly that. I say probably Universe might be the wrong choice there. I don't know, because again, it's not really a game I have much knowledge of at all. Which is a host of something like this is probably a good idea. Choice number 4, Alex.
I can't remember.
Begin. Wind.
Wind.
Wind. Ends in wind.
Morrowind.
Yes. You see, it pays to write it down beforehand, just so you know what I'm talking about before we get there. Bear in mind, it's your bloody list.
I know.
Yeah.
Hell.
Yeah. So, am I right in sort of thinking we need to mention sort of the Elder Scrolls and the Skyrim games that we're sort of in the right ballpark here, aren't we?
The what games?
The Elder Scrolls games.
No, what did you say? Skyrim?
Yeah,
It's Skyrim!
it's Skyrim. Look, where we come from, different parts of the world, it's called Skyrim round here, mate.
Skyrim.
And it used to mean something else, which I'm not going to go into. But
No.
That's why we don't call it Skyrim, because that is something completely different. You come around here talking about Skyrim, mate. You'll live to regret it. Put it that way. But we are in the same sort of universe here, aren't we?
Yes.
Setting, yeah. That's right. So it saves me having to reach up and get the box down that I've got one of the games in. So talk us through Morrowind then, mate.
Oh, Morrowind. What a game. So it's the third in the Elder Scrolls series. I've not played the first or second ones, which were on the PC. Well, Morrowind was, actually. And then it came to the Xbox a few years later. But the first and second ones were a bit before my time, really. Morrowind is very much like Skyrim, but it's so much more in-depth in terms of story. It doesn't hold your hand. Where Skyrim is... All the missions on Skyrim is go over there, kill that, and it gives you an arrow and points you and holds your hand to the actual place. Morrowind doesn't, and it allows for much more of a role-playing experience.
So that's something that sort of obviously heavily appeals to you. That's the sort of game that you really want to get your teeth into. That's why you can probably spend so many hours on something like that. Where for someone like me, it's going to be a little bit different, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a bit. What's the word? It's not very beginner friendly, if you like, because it's set in a world what uses really obscure names with a lot of and stuff like that in, what you can't even pronounce.
Yeah, like Skyrim. Yeah. Yeah. If anybody's interested, incidentally, based on what Alex just said there, if anybody wants to buy a copy of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind Game of the Year edition on the Xbox, it sounds like it's going to be a bit tough for me. So if anybody wants to buy a copy, you know where I am. Yeah, I'm just looking at the back of that box. That's obviously. This came out on the Xbox, as I guess in PC as well at the same time. 100 plus hours of exciting new gameplay from the Blood Moon and Tribunal expansions. So you've got the Morrowind game and those 2 expansion packs on this particular Game of the Year edition.
That's right, yeah. It came out on the Xbox a bit later than it came out on the PC. So it was originally a PC game, but...
Did you play? Did you play it on the PC or the Xbox?
I did play it on the PC, yeah. But I mean, it's a better experience on the PC. But just to play it with a controller now on the Xbox, it's just easier.
And does it work better on a controller? Would you say?
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, just sort of briefly touching on the sort of Championship Manager games, I thought they worked pretty well on the Xbox controller as well. Which when you consider playing those games with a mouse or infrared pad, something like that, it was very easy to do. But it worked very well with a console and controller. I'm just wondering how a game which I would normally associate with being very sort of PC works on a something as giant and clunky as the Xbox controller.
Well, the Xbox controller had dual analog sticks, so that wasn't an issue, turning and moving and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You had the triggers so you could block and attack. So, it just worked all right, and you could get into your menu and just scroll across as normal, really.
Mm.
Funny you should say about the Football Manager working all right on an Xbox. I'll go back to Baldur's Gate because I've got it for the PlayStation 4. I've got it for the Switch as well. And I don't think it worked very well on there. It's a mouse and keyboard game, definitely.
Yeah, because I think having, again, just going back to having played the Championship Manager games, I can sort of relate to what you're saying there, because when I've played sort of, say, something like Football Manager 2006, which was sort of the follow-on, when Sports Interactive had the split, one went off to make Football Manager today, and somebody else went to make Championship Manager, and the series sort of died there. Trying to play something like the difference between sort of Championship Manager 2002, 2003 on the old, the old ADOS software, and then play something like Football Manager 2006, which was the Sega Sports Interactive one. They're two completely different games, and it's far more complicated on 2006 because there's so many different menus to go through. So probably that is a better game for. It's not unplayable, don't get me wrong, but it's probably be a better game for sort of keyboard and mouse. Again, with Morrowind, is there a sort of standout moment in that game that sort of puts it onto this list for you, or?
No, it was just the experience as a whole. So you could create certain, like potions and items that could help you and things like that. You had so much control over the game and exploration. It was just, I got lost in the game, and that's what I want from a game. That's what I like. I like the exploration. I hate linear games. I just like being able to do whatever I want.
Yeah. No, again, it's that is definitely a more modern thing than it used to be. Games used to be reasonably rigid. I know that there's this task where you sort of try and complete a game 100% by collecting all the bits and pieces for it, which I much prefer to go from sort of A to B and work it that way rather than have to try and find all the other bits to say I've actually officially completed the game. But I suppose really with sort of the advent of, as we were talking earlier about things like Warcraft and the ability to work in open worlds, the sandbox games of the Grand Theft Auto series, and even something like is it Burnout Paradise, which I think they were saying was one of the was sort of like taking a car game into sort of an open sort of universe. And I think
you wanted on that.
And is that like I think maybe the Forza series is a bit like that as well.
Forza Horizons, I think.
Yeah. It's just sort of things that are sort of coming to me now as we talk about it. So, yeah. So, would you say Morrowind is better than Baldur's Gate 2 if I asked you to make a choice?
No.
You were quick in with that one. So that's obviously the definitive no. It's definitely not. No.
You just get a better experience with Baldur's Gate, and it's more user friendly, I guess, or beginner friendly.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So we left your gaming history at the sort of the 16-bit console war, doing battle with an Amiga, and everybody getting on jolly well, which is not an experience that certainly I had with people like that. So where did you go after that?
We went to the PlayStation. Now, it was a bit of a surprise to me because a lot of my friends had the PlayStation. I didn't. I was still on the SNES. And I've gone to school one day and come back and my SNES had gone. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
My dad said, oh, it's in that bag there. And in the bag was a PlayStation. And it was, it's great. I got FIFA 97, Tomb Raider, and Mortal Kombat Trilogy. They were the 3 games I got. And
that's not a bad selection to have to start with, is it really?
Not at all, no. The PlayStation I haven't got an awful lot of nostalgia for. I didn't really experience a wide variety of games because I had a PC as well, and that's when I got right into Football Manager, Baldur's Gate, things like that. So I was playing more mainstream games when it came to the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. And once I completed it, I was trading in to get another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more mainstream, so I missed out on an awful lot of games, which was bad at the time, but it's good now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd say if you could have gone back in time, would you have kept the SNES if you had a choice,
Oh yeah,
rather than got the PlayStation at the time?
yeah, but it's not such a big issue now because I've got a SNES Mini, a classic, and it's been modded. So sorry, I've got all my backups on.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just for obviously copyright purposes, just to clarify that the views
Yeah, I
of
don't know why I said modded.
that the views of Alex are the views of Griffo Retro Gaming, and nothing to do with my channel whatsoever. I don't condone this at all. Yeah. Yeah. So the PlayStation didn't really sort of do it for you. Would you have any other consoles of that era at all, or?
I wouldn't say it didn't do it for me. There was some really good games, and I liked the wrestling game. I told you the other day I'm a wrestling fan, and
Yes, that's
SmackDown
right.
was great.
Oh yes, I mean SmackDown was yeah, brilliant. Just the introduction, the fact they managed to sort of replicate, sort of the introduction of the TV show.
Yeah,
and that sort of sets you up, and you sort of hooked from the word go.
my favourite though was probably Attitude at the time because you had to put the combos in to do the moves, and I just found that a bit better.
Yeah, I played a lot of the Attitude game, and again, it was just a case of sort of finding, because I'm terrible at fighting games. One of the reasons I don't like fighting games is I'm not very good at them, and I can't be bothered to sit there and learn 85 different combination button moves to do that. I'll just find 3 or 4 that I can do quite easily, and try and play the game with that, and it suited me fine.
What else? Oh, Final Fantasy 7 and 8. I really enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm. Were those the first Final Fantasy games you actually played?
Number 7? Oh, no, I had the ones on the Game Boy, but they're technically not Final Fantasy games, if that makes sense. They just use the name. I don't know the full story behind it. Someone might say in the comments, but
yeah,
they're not technically Final Fantasy games. So, I'd say the first one was 7.
7, yeah. Okay. So after PlayStation 1, and obviously you're into your PC gaming as well. Where did you go after that?
I went to GameCube.
GameCube.
But I only had it for a little bit, and I swapped it with someone for a PlayStation 2.
Ah, okay. Because I did a similar thing with mine, and I swapped mine for an Xbox. So my reasoning for swapping my GameCube for an Xbox was the fact that I was disappointed with the amount of software that came out on the GameCube. Not to say I was disappointed with the quality, because when you sort of play something like is it Rogue Leader 2, isn't it? I think Rogue Squadron, the one that came out on release date. Because when I got mine, because I got mine on release date, and I got Super Monkey Ball and that Star Wars game with it. If you go back and play that Star Wars game now, it still stands up beautifully. I think it really. I played it again within the last sort of 6 months or so, and I was surprised just how well it has stood up. And again,
nice.
Didn't catch that. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, a lot of the games on the GameCube are nice still. Yes,
they are. I mean, the Mario Sunshine, I will still stand back. Is probably one of the best Mario games I think they did.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't like it because it wasn't Mario, and it wasn't Mario enough. Which I don't quite understand that. It's but as a console, it was ideal. All it was designed for was to playing games for it. But when I first got this amount of software that's coming out for it was sort of very slow and a bit underwhelming. I think by that point I sort of thought the best thing I can do here is get an Xbox, and I actually wanted a PlayStation too, but we eventually get an Xbox. We do more with it.
Yeah.
But so you swapped yours for a PlayStation 2.
Yeah. Reason being is I wanted the SmackDown games.
So your reason was purely because there were other games on other consoles that you wanted to play, whereas mine was there's more games on those other systems than there is on this one.
Yeah.
Mm. Do you regret doing that? Would you have still done the same thing if you thought about it a bit more and thought I could have stuck with the GameCube?
Despite me being a Nintendo lover, I think I made the right choice with the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I think in all fairness, I wouldn't change my decision because I've still got that Xbox I swapped it for, which was probably sort of 2003. I've still got that Xbox, so it's the only piece of hardware I've got from when I first from first time round.
Yeah,
everything
wow,
else.
I can't believe it's still working.
Well, it's also chipped to play backup games. But we did that a long time ago, and it's absolutely brilliant, and it's still going. It's still going. I don't use it so much now because I've got another one that I picked up cheaply, which I use instead. Just sort of keep that one. So if I fancy sort of playing any games that I can't or I don't own, I've got some backup copies to play.
Oh
yeah. So that's it. Nothing wrong with that. But there we go.
No.
Right. So we've had 4 of your favourites, and we've still got 2 of your favourites to go. But I want to sort of drag in the other 2 that we sort of ask you to pick up, which is a game which you don't like, and a game that you want to put some more time into, or you never had the chance to put the time into originally, or for some reason you started playing and just stopped playing. So that will be the next one to pick. And which game was that one?
That was Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a game that is probably, I think, is it the most recent? Is it the most recent game on your list? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So this game here, we sort of class it as a game we'll spend a bit more time with. First of all, why is it in this category? What did you get to a certain point with it, or did you just not have the time to put into it, or whatever?
No, I've just started playing it really, and I wish I could spend more time with it. It's such a beautiful game in every sense of the word, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like it because it's deviated away from the Zelda sort of like how it's been in the past, but Miyamoto wanted Zelda to be like Breath of the Wild is in his vision of Zelda. Really, he wanted it to be open world and about exploration, and that's exactly what you get from Breath of the Wild.
Mm.
And yeah, it's right up my street. It's open world. You can go off and do whatever you want, and that's the appeal of it, and being a Zelda game as well, because I do love the franchise.
Yeah,
but graphically it's beautiful as well.
Because I mean, this is the sort of if you theoretically we're talking about the desert island here, but this is the sort of game that you'll be able to sort of sit there and put the time into it. I know exactly what you mean because this is a game I've got on the Switch, and I played it. And again, I'm not a massive Zelda fan, but it was good. I was getting very engrossed into it, and then I sort of read a bit more about it, what people have been doing, and what one comment I sort of read is, "Oh yeah, I spent most of the afternoon walking around the mountains," and I thought, I'm never going to have that time to walk around the mountains. How big is this bloody game? And then I sort of realised what it's up against. I mean, and even Mrs. Bear had a go at it for a few hours, and she had to put it down because some of her favourite games are things like Fallout 3 was one of her favourites, and the amount of time she put into something like that, and then she started playing Fallout 4 and had to stop because it was beginning to sort of drag her in too much. And I think she felt that with Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and I can completely relate to that. I thought, yeah, this is the sort of game I could really sit down and put the time into it if I had the time. Yeah,
and another thing is a lot of people don't like the weapon weapons breaking. I can't say that.
Degradation or something like that. I can't say it either. So yeah. When your weapon stops working, or splinters into 1,000 pieces. Yeah.
But for me, I like it because it makes you think about how you're going to approach a battle.
And it also adds that extra dimension to it. Is you've got to be careful with your resources.
Yeah,
because it happened to me, and I thought, oh right, what happens now?
Yeah, you've got to pick up a branch.
Yeah,
and use that. It's all you've got. But I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's asking, it's adding a new dimension to it. It's asking you to think a little bit more before you make any decisions. And this would be the same case out in the real world if you were doing the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah, because the swords used to break, I guess, and if you're using a club, they're only wood, aren't they? And
yeah. If anybody had any thoughts on that, let us know. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and this is a game which requires a huge amount of time to be put in. But then again, a lot of games are like that. I mean, if you are spending a huge amount of, don't forget this is a game which is still quite expensive. It hasn't dropped in value much at all.
no,
I know there is a version on the Wii U which is again that's still expensive for a Wii U game. I know it's a small library, but it's still quite expensive for it. When I buy a game or think about buying a game, I think, hey, what am I going to get out of it? And you sort of read about games having like 6 to 10 hours gameplay, and you think, well, that's not an awful lot. How many hours gameplay has Zelda Breath of the Wild got?
Right, if you went linear, I'm not sure, but if you do whatever you want, it's as long as you want it to be, really.
It's a good investment. Investing copies of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's probably better than investing in things like stocks and shares at the moment, anyway. But yeah. It is the perfect game for a desert island. I have absolutely no argument with that at all, Alex. But yeah, as a standalone game to sort of play during everyday occurrences, it would just be physically impossible. You would just never. I just would never be able to put enough time into it. I'd have to literally stop doing stuff just to play that one particular game.
I'm playing it at work. That's the only time I really get.
Should you not be working?
Not me break.
You're allowed a break at work. You're one of the lucky ones, right? There we go. Okay, so we'll move on from Zelda. Let's go back to your favourite game list, and game number 5. And I know we've briefly brought this into conversation a couple of times now. No surprise when I ask you today that game 5 is. You've forgotten again, didn't
you? No, I'm just kidding.
Dramatic pause. Yes.
Football Manager 12.
Football Manager 12. Right. First question I'm going to ask you is, after saying good choice of series, but why this particular version?
Yeah, so it's not as I think it's the best or anything like that. It's just the one I sunk the most time into. And I had a look on Steam, and it was 1,600 hours I'd sunk into it.
That's a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
That is a lot of time. But this is the sort of game that again, you can easily lose half a day playing it.
Yeah, and another beauty of it is you don't have to give it your all. When you're playing a match, you're not forced to watch it, and when it's when you're just scrolling through the transfer list and things like that.
Oh, that's so time consuming. Oh, yeah,
it can be, yeah.
Especially when you're trying to set the game up at the start, and you sort of try and you look at what squad you got and you think, well, I'll go and look on the transfer list or who's available transfer who wants, and then all of a sudden you realise 2 hours later you've actually done nothing.
Yeah.
Other than put bids in for players, and you're still on the same day that you started.
Yeah. That's exactly how I play it. But when I'm playing it as well, I'm a bit different to what I read online. I like to be lower teams. I hate being the big teams.
I never start as a big team. I always try and start in either. I say it's been a long time since I played one now because I got a bit annoyed when they got a bit more complicated and a bit more in depth. Where I'll mention my favourite one in a minute, but yeah, I always try and start sort of League 2 conference even and build it from there.
On 12 in particular, I'm usually Bradford, and they're in League 2. And the only reason I picked them is because they've got a big stadium, and that means that you can get the money as you go up the leagues. Yeah,
I mean, all that sort of thing helps us when you're playing at that level. Whatever revenue you can get in is very beneficial. And again, I suppose it helps to pick a bigger, smaller team, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So you say you pick Bradford because of the size of the stadium. I always think it's a bit of challenge to try and pick one of the smaller small teams, but you're never quite sure what you're going to get with them.
Yeah, I mean, I do like going into the conference as well. On that one, I think I do usually go for a team with a bigger stadium. So I think I was Wrexham once, and I've been loads of teams. I think I was in Scotland as well. I managed Queen's Park, and they're an amateur team, so you weren't allowed to offer contracts
Right.
if you want that challenge. So you just, as soon as you signed someone, they were available for people to nab, which was quite difficult.
Yeah, to try and keep hold of everybody.
Yeah.
I just thought of something as you were talking there. Do you stay with Do you stay with the team all the way through? So if you're playing a game, or do you find the temptation to move if you get an offer from somewhere else? You'd rather go there.
No, I always stick with the same team.
You always stick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I tend to move around a bit, but I don't mind that. I think it's just the way I play. There are certain times where I get to a certain point with the team. I've done it before where I think there's not really much else I can do. All of a sudden, you just sort of stop getting the results. And no matter what you do, you change the tactics, you change the formation, you bring in different players. You just go through a period where you just can't do anything right. And then all of a sudden, you think, well, this team is pretty much, I can't take this team any further forward. And then you sort of look at the jobs coming in from elsewhere, and I sort of end up moving to different clubs and going through.
I usually find when Cristiano Ronaldo's 35 and he's playing for Oldham, it's time to start a new game.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. There's so many things like that. But I think the problem is when you start is lower down. Is that if you start, say, Conference or League Two or whatever, it's going to take you sort of 2 or 3, 2 to 4 years probably working your way up the leagues, and then of course a number of the top players sort of moved around, and everybody's in completely different places.
Yeah, it's it does get like that. But it's interesting.
Yeah,
I can't do international management, by the way.
I was quite fine. I was fine with international management when I was playing. I mean, my favourite game is Football Manager 2005 because, again, like you, that's the most I've sunk the hours into. That's the most I've sort of got on with, and the game I always go back to because it sort of keeps a lot of the elements of the old Championship Manager games, as well as the good elements from Championship Manager 4 and Championship Manager 0304, which were bug-ridden to hell. Both of those games.
Yeah, first Football Manager, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think.
But I like that because there was enough depth to it without it being too complicated. It kept the very simple match graphics which they introduced in Champ Manager 4, and that for me is a perfect blend of the game. But I many times end up I managed Argentina at one point.
Did you?
Yeah, and again that's really difficult when you're playing with with a small database because you've got obviously players who are in the game, but obviously there are players in there who. All of a sudden you're picking. Was a guy who used to play for Warsaw and QPR, a guy called Gino Padula, and he made most of his career playing the lower leagues over here, but because he was Argentinian, and he sort of ended up getting a few caps when I was manager. Oh dear. I mean, what's the best you've ever done on that? If you could, anything off the top of your head at all? I mean, I presume. You would have been quite successful and won most of the trophies in that game.
Yeah, I've never won Champions League with a lower team, but got into the Champions League. I think my greatest success was I was Kaiserslautern in Germany, and I got them to Champions League and won.
Oh, right.
I do like to manage in foreign leagues as well.
Yeah. I mean, one of my very first Championship Manager games was Championship Manager when
the Italian one.
No, the German one.
Oh, German one.
Yeah, because they were dirt cheap to buy, and it basically robbed me of a decent dissertation grade at university because I spent far too much time playing that game.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I know. That's my my career and job is what it is because if I hadn't spent so much time playing Championship Manager Germany, I could have been running I don't know. BP or something like that, but no, I don't know. But no, maybe not.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think probably my greatest achievement. I got when we Barnet were in the conference. I got them all the way to the League Cup final.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And we gave Liverpool a hell of a good game. They only won the game 2-1. So, they weren't that good. So Football Manager 2012, I mean, best part of that game for you?
Just finding all the gems, really. If anyone wants to play Football Manager 12 in the lower leagues, I've got some players that you can sign. One of them being Jamal Adam, who's absolutely immense up front. And there's I think he's Uruguayan. He's called Enzo Scorza. Trust me.
I'm sure I've heard of him. I'm not sure whether he's Uruguayan or Italian. I don't know.
He holds an Italy passport. If you load up the French lower leagues as well, you get a lot of players from the Reunion Islands, and they're really good.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. I only found that. Apparently, Reunion Island is in the EU in real life, and they don't need a passport or anything like that. Part of the.
Yeah, all right. It's just quite applicable for you being stuck in a desert island playing these games.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the people who play these games, spend so many times unearthing all these great players that you can find, and you would never usually be aware of. And I'm not going to go into huge. I mean, people want to sort of look these things up. There's so many stories about players on Championship Manager and Football Manager who were tremendous on the game, whose real life careers perhaps didn't quite live up to the expectations that they came in. Yeah, Cherno Samba, I think, is one. There's another guy called Mark Kerr, who was a midfielder playing his football. Yeah. So, there's loads of players like that. And you always, I don't know about you, Alex, but I always managed to default to players who I knew could do a job.
Yeah,
Yeah. If I'd played a previous version of the game, and I load up a new version of the game, or I move different club, I thought, you know what, you can do a job for me in that position there. First player I sign up with the same person over and over again, just because you get to know them. And I said, having that characteristic, the bonding that we talked about 3 hours ago when we first started doing this with Baldur's Gate.
We've gone full circle.
I know. Another tangent. Right, so... Right, you'll enjoy this one. This is the one that people most probably listening to. Game you hate.
Oh.
Because I don't think, as I said on the podcast, the TMB podcast, I don't think you should be allowed to spend, even though you're marooned on a desert island and basically nobody's got any idea where you are, even though it's, paradise, you shouldn't be allowed to enjoy yourself too much. And there should be a game in there which is, sort of every time you open the box up with all the games in there, I think, what shall I play today? And there's going to be one game there looking at you, glinting in the sun, catching your eye, and you're thinking, oh, God, have I really got to do that now? I've been up the mountains in Zelda.
You just wouldn't, would you? You'd bury it.
Yeah, but curiosity killed many felines. This is your cat. And it's come to kill you, which is quite appropriate, really.
Yeah.
And your game of in brackets choice is
right. Can I do a disclaimer before I say this?
You can.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not a bad game, as in it's broken or anything like that. It's such a disappointing game. And it is Resident Evil 6.
Now, usually when you sort of say the first two words in that sentence, there'll be a great intake of breath. But then when you say 6,
everyone will agree. Probably.
And everyone will go, "Oh, thank goodness for that." I thought he was going to say 2. but this is a game that again, hand on heart, honestly, is the best policy. Never played, although I have got a copy of it somewhere. I think possibly on the 360.
You probably will have.
Yeah, because I don't think I paid £1 for it. Picked it up. This is a game that generally gets a lot of bad press or a lot of disappointed gamers talking about it. And I only mentioned it a few weeks ago, and at least 2 or 3 people commented on the video saying Resident Evil 6 is a terrible game. So why is it terrible, Alex? Why is this the game that is going to torment you until the sound of the plane or the ship going to pick you up is in the distance?
Well, let's start back at the first Resident Evil. See, I'm not a fan of Resident Evil games. and I didn't like the first one or second one because of the tank controls. I didn't think they were bad games because they were good. They set a scene. They were, revolutionary for the time, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I never got into them because of the tank controls. So the only one that I played that I did enjoy was Resident Evil 5. And I know that's not the most popular of games.
Was that the one with the sort of the African setting?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that. It had an arcadey feel to it, and I liked the story, I liked the characters. I thought, Chris and Sheva, they worked well together. And you had Wesker in there, who was the boss, if you like. So I was really excited for Resident Evil 6. And when I got it and played it, it just did not deliver. And it wasn't because, like, in the disclaimer, it was a bad game, because it wasn't. The shooting was all right, the weapons and everything like that. It was just so boring and monotonous. And when you think, like I said with Baldur's Gate, like I said with Resident Evil 1 and 2, I liked the setting, I liked the story and things like that with it. It was just the control that I didn't like. You just didn't get that with Resident Evil 6, and that was... there was too much of a... There was a lack of character from anyone in the game. I can't really remember much about the game because it was so boring. The zombies carried guns. Like, really?
I've never seen that before, and I've watched a few episodes of The Walking Dead in my time, and I've never seen that myself.
It was just, it didn't work.
Do you think? Say you played 5, and while again, it's not regarded as one of the better ones in the series. Do you think there was probably a lot of hype for 6, that if people didn't enjoy 5 so much, that 6 was going to be a return to form? And
yeah, other people might have thought that. Yeah. I know that wasn't the feeling with me, but yeah, some people might not have liked 5 so much. So yeah, they might have been hoping that 6 was a return to.
Yeah. Is there a particular part of the game that you just didn't like, or as you said, was it just one of these cases where you're sort of sitting there and sort of 2 hours later you look at your watch and think, well, what have I done for the last 2 hours?
Yeah.
I
mean, like I said, that the fighting was all right. Or, the shooting, should I say? And the graphically it was nice. The setting was a bit boring, but graphically it was nice. It was just monotonous. So boring. I mean, I for this, I could have picked Superman 64 or something, but I wanted to pick a game that was playable. But
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you could sit in here and we could sort of pick traditionally bad games, but there's no sort of we know there's enough material out there about games like Superman 64 and bloody E.T. and those things that always crop on these sort of conversations. So in a way, when I saw you sort of put that down, I thought, oh, great, because it's a game I know of. I know it's not got a particularly great reputation, but I'm always interested to hear somebody say why they don't like that. And I think again with the ones I've done previously, people gave me sort of games I would never expected to be on that sort of list, or games I played and I say, yeah, actually you got a point on that. Do you think there's anything that you could have that could have been improved about this particular game to make it better, other than more interesting?
No, not really. Only like having a decent story and characters, really.
So basically, the whole premise of the game, then. the combat bit, as you said, was absolutely fine. Just change the characters and the story, and then you got a game going on there.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's simple enough. I mean, they should have had that conversation when they were developing the game. It shouldn't be you and me talking about it 10 years later.
It's the whole basis of a game, really. It's supposed to, well, that's not so much in the past, but especially in the last 10, 15 years or so, you've got to have a story.
Yeah.
It's a whole package now, isn't it, a game? It's not just trying to get the high score.
That's right. I think sometimes the problem is with games now is that the story does sometimes tend to overshadow what you actually end up putting in the game. Because there's no point in giving you the best story in the world and then you put a game which has got 5 to 6 hours worth of gameplay and then charge somebody 40 quid the privilege of downloading it to their hard drive across the best part of 3 days to be incredibly disappointed by it.
I think that's what divides people on The Last of Us, isn't it? I've never played it, so I can't really comment. But...
No, it is a game I am actually certainly eager to pick up and add to my collection at some point. And I think because Mrs. Bear quite likes the first-person shooters, that she'd, if I did get a hold of a copy of it, she'd have a go at it as well. But again, a lot of people say that, as you're absolutely right, you say that about that sort of game. It's sort of, style over substance, and it's a great story and a great setting and brilliant, but there's actually no depth of gameplay whatsoever.
Yeah, it's more cinematic, isn't it? But
yeah. It is a time.
I did actually find that with Heavy Rain. That was more cinematic, wasn't it?
Yes, that's another game which I've got, which I haven't played yet. And I think the other one I can think of as well. Is it Beyond?
L.A. Noire, then.
I liked L.A. Noire. I made a specific point of buying that, and then playing it again. Very close to the game that I was going to put on, where you put Breath of the Wild on this. I'd nearly put that in there because I love that particular era. Yeah, and that game to me was like fantastic, and nobody liked it because although it's like being billed as Grand Theft Auto with fedoras, there were too many fedoras for too many people's liking, so nobody played it because it wasn't Grand Theft Auto enough for most people, which is really strange.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did as well. I think it's a very underrated game. Very underrated game. Right, so that's Resident Evil 6, tarred and feathered. We now move on to your final choice. But before we get to your final choice, we got to obviously the PlayStation 2 on your gaming journey. So bring us up to date where you went after that and where you are at now.
Okay, so I got an X360 after the PlayStation 2. And that was because I couldn't be bothered to wait any longer. I'd gone into game and they were letting people test out the 360 and I was just blown away with it. So
yeah. Yes, because there was a delay to it, wasn't there? And sort of Microsoft got in with the 360 quite early.
Was it 6 months or so? It was a long time.
I mean that is like years in sort of technology terms. Into in that sort of field where technology is changing all the time. 6 months is like you might as well just make it 6 years and be done with it.
And that's why I went for the Xbox 360, and from there I did get a PlayStation 3 in the end, which I preferred the 360 over the PlayStation 3. I think that's because of Gears of War, and it was slightly better on certain games. I know the PlayStation 3 is better in certain games as well. They both work a bit differently to each other.
That's right, and I think that helps as well because when you're looking at the two, the Xbox 3. This is the same problem I had when we were deciding to buy one. Which one we were going to buy? Yeah, and the 360 does this, which is great, but the PlayStation 3 does this, which is also great. And I think what swung it for us was the fact that the PlayStation 3, we could sort of use it to run a lot of media through it, and also I got the Blu-ray player, but also to run our sort of home server through it as well. So we could use that and then play sort of media through the PlayStation through the telly. And that's what swung it. Whereas, from my point of view, being a gamer at the time first, rather than what I am now as a collector, I would have gone for the 360 because of the vast library of games. Yeah,
you said about Mrs. Bear as well, like in Fallout, and I'm a Fallout fan and Elder Scrolls, and they just work better on the 360.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I had them for both the PS3 and the 360, and I always thought they worked better than the 360.
Yeah.
But yeah, from there, I went for the PlayStation 4. And the reason being is because they brought out a Batman PS4. That's the only reason.
What a specifically designed PlayStation 4?
Yeah.
What in the shape of Batman?
No.
What are we talking classic Keaton, or are we talking, sort of the Adam West era?
Adam West, that'd be brilliant. No,
Adam West
it's
PlayStation 4.
PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's not the Pro or anything, but it's just got it's all silver, and it's just got a silhouette of Batman. It's just really nice. And I'm a fan of the Arkham games. It was hard not to put one of them on, actually, on the list, but you had to make a sacrifice. But yeah, that's the only reason I got a PlayStation 4, or else I'd have probably gone Xbox One purely for Gears of War.
Mm-hmm. So okay, and that's where you are. Is that where you're at now with the collection, or
collection? No, I sold my Game Boy games a few. When would it have been? Maybe 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because my wife wanted Final Cut so she could do her YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And it was 200 quid, I think, at the time. And we just didn't have the money. And I wasn't into the gaming scene or anything. Like I say, I was happy enough to just get the biggest games and trade them in and then get the next one.
Yeah.
And I'd gone to an event called Geek Trader in Hull, and I took a load of me Game Boy games, which were beautiful condition, because I used to take the cartridge out and then just put on the shelf. And I was thinking back as well, it's sickening. I had Bionic Commando, which is a £100 game, Universal Soldier, and I sold the lot for about, I think it was 250 quid.
Cool.
Which I really, really regret. But whilst I was there, that's when I discovered that retro had come back in, and I was like, the SNES, I used to love playing that, and I was seeing Spectrums and Game Boys and all kinds of different things. I haven't spoke about my handhelds, actually, as we go through time, but we'll just get it as the consoles.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I'd seen the prices, obviously, but I'd heard about the Xbox and how it could play backups. It could be backed up with a load of different games. So I was on the lookout for them, and they were about 70 quid. So I traded one for a few more Game Boy games that I didn't sell. And are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm absolutely fascinated by this. Yeah.
And yeah, I traded some Game Boy games with someone for this Xbox, original Xbox. I'd never had one before.
Fantastic machines, really are.
Yeah,
so underrated.
I soon learned, and when I'd gone into CEX and seen some games for 50p, I thought, yeah, all right, I'll give it a go. And I started using it as just an Xbox rather than using it for the different systems on there. And like you say, it's fantastic. I haven't looked back, and I've got 230 games now for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reasonably small library compared to some. I think there's only some in the region of 700 to 800 games for it.
PAL, yeah.
Yeah, it depends what you're going for. Whether you're going for a sort of, get different sort of region set, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the reason I talked about it earlier. That's why I kept it so long, is because it's such a great console. And some people don't like it, and I don't know. I think it's incredibly unfair. I mean, it does exactly what it is. It's a box. It's got an X on it. I don't know what more people want.
I put it down to the controller. A lot of people always say when they don't like the Xbox, it's because of the controller.
It's a horrible controller. I'll give you that.
I like it.
Well, yeah, it's
I've
a bit.
got massive hands.
Well, yeah.
Perfect.
I've got pianist fingers, which is probably wrong for something like that. And I did say the word pianists there.
Oh, right,
Yeah, yes,
okay.
yeah. But yeah, it's. I mean, it's not the greatest controller in the world, and as the Xbox has sort of developed from that to the 360, the Xbox One, the controllers have got a lot better. And I still think it's a good controller, but the first sort of sort of incarnations of it were incredibly too chunky, and you couldn't play too much on them at a time because my fingers just aren't made for things like that.
I don't think the active for the S controller.
I haven't used that one at all. So
it's just a slim. It's the smaller one.
Yeah.
That's all, not the Duke.
Oh no, I'm stuck with the original. I don't know what it was with the Xbox original, because I don't know saying that either. It's the Xbox. Nothing else been called Xbox. It is the Xbox. But I've also got a giant flight stick for it as well, which I've never seen before or since. Yeah, it's like it's a joystick, but it looks more like one of those specialist flight sticks that you can buy. One day I will put it on camera, and it's absolutely massive. And of course, there was that tremendous controlling setup for Steel Battalion.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'd love to get that.
I've seen a couple on eBay recently, but they've gone mostly north of around about £200.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Which is silly for basically a game which you'll just say, "Wow, this is brilliant." Set it up once and then put it back in the box and never play it again.
Never play it again.
But that is the sort of pitfalls of the gamer stroke collector stroke gamer. Right then, so that's your gaming journey. I'm going to draw a line on that because I can hear the sound of an aeroplane coming. I haven't done your last game yet, which hopefully you can remember what it was.
Yeah, I found my list, so I can.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. If only we had that about 45 minutes ago, there wouldn't have been that uncomfortable moment where you'd forgotten to mention Morrowind. But anyway, not to worry. Your final game, then, which you'll be playing as, I said, that plane is sort of flying its way towards you to rescue you, and you're sitting there happily on the beach. All of a sudden, you look up, there's a plane in the distance, and you are having in your hand, playing happily along, a copy of
Pokemon Heart Gold,
which I've never heard of. I've heard of Pokemon, and we've had this discussion before, and it's Pokemon is, I'm afraid, something that just sort of passed me by. And believe me, I'll get dragged into a lot of fads and things which are very, very popular. But this one is just, and I have played a Pokemon game. It's not because I hate Pokemon. I have played Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy, which I've got, and after playing it about an hour and a half, I got Resident Evil 6 syndrome and just decided I was a bit bored and turned it off. So, talk us through Pokemon Heart Gold.
Yeah, okay. So it's a remake, for starters, of Pokemon Gold on the Game Boy Color, and it's updated graphics. It's a game for the DS. But what really makes it unique and good is, it's got a pedometer with it, which is in the shape of a Pokeball. And you use that to capture Pokemon which you don't get in the game, and then you can transfer it over to your game from the Pokeball. It's a really good feature. So essentially, it's Pokemon Go before Pokemon Go.
Right.
And there is another one as well, Soul Silver, but I never had that. I had Pokemon Gold, Heart Gold. Sorry.
So why this particular? Because I mean, there are literally loads of, I don't know, hundreds is the wrong word, but loads of Pokemon games. What is it about this particular? I don't know if you said it's a remake. What is, or redo over? What is about this particular game that sort of stands out from the other ones that makes it on this list?
It's the Pokeball. It just added a different dimension to the game, and it's something I still do now. I sometimes have it on me, clipped to my belt. I'm a big Pokemon fan. I did have a really big collection, but I had to sell. I was ill a few years ago, so I had to sell it.
Right.
I did keep Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and that's the main reason. So I've got both of those fully boxed with the poker walkers, and then I bought a third poker walker to use when I'm playing.
Is Pokemon something that you got heavily into at the time? It makes it sound like a drug. Sorry, I sound like something the word Pokemon for heroin. You know, yeah. So where did you first discover Pokemon? Sorry, Was it something that you sort of really sort of got into?
Yeah, I got into it big time, but by accident. I'd seen Pokemon Red and Blue in Electronics Boutique, actually.
That's going back a few years, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what get me Pokemon Red. And purely because on the back it looked like a JRPG. Which is probably, it's turn-based battling, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you level up. But, I just got it on the off chance, and I didn't even realise that it was exploding with the Pokemon cards, and the cartoon had hit British shores and stuff like that. And I just got lost in it. It was fantastic. It was, for fresh air and everything.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could trade as well with friends at Pokemon Blue.
It was very sort of an interactive thing, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I don't know what they were going for with the 2 copies at first. Because now it's a lot easier. You can do it over the internet and, trading, that is, and battling. But with the Red and Blue, it just seemed like a way of getting more money out of you. But now it's, I don't know, maybe they've gone too far in and, they've got to keep doing it. But the fact that it's easier to trade with people now than it was back then, it doesn't seem so bad.
Did you play a lot of Pokemon Go when it came out?
Yeah, I still play it now, yeah.
Is it still going now?
yeah.
Because we did a thing at work when it first started, and we did a thing at work. It was my idea at work to sort of like to try and entice customers into the shop by saying rare Pokemon's inside. To try and get people to come around the shop and with their phones trying to find them and end up buying a washing machine or something. We never went through with that, but I think we missed a trick there on that one. But again, that just sort of exploded, didn't it? I mean, people probably never played Pokemon before playing that game.
I live in Hull, and it's not far from the coast, and there's a place called Hornsey. In the park there, it used to have all the rare Pokemon popping up all day. So you had hundreds of people congregating into this one park in the seaside town. And in the end, the residents had wrote to Niantic and said, get rid of that Pokestop or the Pokestops there because, people are dropping litter and being in the cars and playing music loud at night and, to get Pokemon.
Waiting for this, rare whatever it is to turn up. Again, it's just amazing to sort of hear something like that, and really, in a way, to sort of finish on that note, because obviously that's the list of games we've gone through about what this great sort of I don't know whether you class it, Alex, as a hobby or an interest or whatever, but the way this sort of brings certain people together or creates a craze or a fascination or an interest. And I don't know where you sort of sit on that sort of thing, but where would you sort of is that right, do you think, or are we
is that with Pokemon? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pokemon is the example of the way it sort of pulls people in like that. But again, in general, games have that ability to sort of, very, very, right at the very, very start of this, you said it was just sort of, what drew you first to games. And it was the fact that you could immerse yourself into them and be fascinated by them. And
well, I've got a short attention span, and I struggle to watch films and TV shows. I really do. I have to be doing something else.
Yeah.
So I'm not bothered by films at all. I just do not watch film. I watch a little bit of TV every now and again, but I can't remember the last time I did, to be honest.
Really? Yeah.
And the reason I got into games is because you control what you're doing. And because they've advanced so much, and we spoke about The Last of Us and LA Noire, you've got a story with them. So it's kind of an interactive film in a way, where you create your own story, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and you know that even going back years and years and years, it's the same sort of thing. You know, each game has a plot, and unless it's like a sports title or something like that. I mean, but then again, sometimes they do. There are elements to the games, you know, where they sort of set up small parts of the game where you sort of like. I'm thinking about
wrestling games, don't they?
Yeah, and the road to WrestleMania. And I'm thinking of something like Brian Lara's Cricket, where you had the opportunity to actually sort of take part in a classic match. You join the match at a certain point, and you want to sort of emulate what happened. But yeah, I mean, even going down to something, right at the very very start of gaming, sort of like Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner, there was a story behind it. There was still a plot there. It was up to you to complete that story. And now you are not only doing that, but you are part of the story because of the way it sort of brings you in. And of course, with the virtual reality as well, it's even bigger part of that.
Yeah. You are the game, aren't you? In that,
yeah,
phenomenal.
So we sort of gone from moving sort of sprites around to sort of being part of it to actually being in it.
Yeah.
Who knows where we're going to go after that? Well, what is that I can hear? I can hear the sound of a plane coming, so it sounds to me like you're about to be rescued, my friend.
Oh, I was enjoying that.
I know, yeah. I can't believe how long we've gone on for as well. But hey ho, this is the Retro Bear. That's why. That's what we do on my channel, I'm afraid. I just keep going on and on until it gets dark. It was actually light outside, and I'm struggling to sort of see outside what's going on now. I was going to say, yeah, because we started to record this a little bit earlier, and I was half, it kept me on the clock. I was half expecting what you told me was going to happen, but it hasn't, has it? So we're all right.
Yeah.
A quiet evening in the Griffiths household, I think. This has been really fun to do, Alex, and thank you so much for coming on to do it. And
thank you. I've enjoyed it.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, and there's some really interesting game choices there. Thank you for taking us through your game journey as well. And I'm hoping from this, I mean, obviously what I will do, and I'll just say this here, there will be a link to Alex's YouTube channel in the description below if you've not come across his channel yet before. I know you do some other things, but I'll obviously allow the traffic to flow through to your YouTube, and then people can find links from that to there. I know you do a lot of Facebook stuff as well, Facebook groups and things like that. So
So
yeah, so we'll flow through with that from there. But if you haven't checked out your channel out, please go and do across some really good stuff on there. Like I said, he said right at the very start, lots of variation, pickups, gameplay, top tens, and some comedy as well. So a real sort of collection to go through there, and I'm sure there is something on there. And I think hopefully from listening to this as well, and what I've known for quite some time, a great chap to talk to, and really into the gaming as well. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to do this. And if we could go on longer, I probably would do so. But I think as we reach the end of it, I think that's probably a good time to finish, as it were.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say I'd like this to really take off. I'd like to hear some other people's stories as well. It's been nice to walk down memory lane, if you like.
Yeah, and that was the whole idea behind it, is to sort of allow a story to be told which people may not know. Whether people would have known about your favourite choices from your game channel, I don't know. But obviously there's your gaming history as well, and you brought people into sort of games that interest you. So I agree, and it's very very gracious of you to saying something like that, because it'd be fantastic if we could get other people on here on a one-to-one and have a chat about it, and do the same sort of thing. And if it does take off, fantastic. If this is the only episode we do, Alex, then it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it, and I know you've enjoyed it as well. So
Yeah, definitely.
we shall see what happens. But I will say this: if anybody does want to sort of come on and do the same sort of thing, same premise, you can always leave a comment below and get in contact with me that way, and then hopefully we can try and arrange something. But that is it for now. On behalf of myself and my guest today, Alex of Griffo's Retro Gaming, I'd like to say thank you very much indeed for listening. Alex, it's been an absolute delight having you on. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me on there. Big fan of your channel, you know that.
I know, and I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much indeed. So this is, this has been, because we're at the end of it now, 5 hours later. This has been Desert Island Games with the Retro Bear, saying thank you very much indeed for listening. Do take care wherever you are in the world, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Bye for now.